that you enjoyed the lunch. I want to start by big thanks to Trescom for organizing this spectacular conference. We all are enjoying a lot. And also, I want to quickly introduce our spectacular panelists. We have Alex Muhin, who is the founder and managing partner of Cryptomeria Capital, sitting right next to me. We also have Valerie Hawley, who is from True Global Ventures. And we have Mru Patel, who is the founder and CEO of My Tokenized Capital. So as you see, it's all investors panel, so it's going to get really interesting. And me, myself, I'm from Swissborg Ventures.
Hi, Himanshu. How are you?
So,
all right?
And we got the last panelist.
Himanshu.
Right, that's Himanshu from Woodstock, really one of our partner VCs. So really nice seeing you in person. Great. So as you see, we have our investors panel. It's going to be interesting. We're going to be talking about the Web3, the trends, and everything from the investor's perspective. So maybe let's start with Valerie, because we were just discussing with her about the trends she's seeing in the markets, and maybe what is her grand vision, what would be interesting maybe, let's say, in the next 5 years, and maybe what challenges you see for those becoming successful.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So, as Paola was saying, I am a founding partner of True Global Venture. It's a very decentralized fund. We are about 25 GPs around the world, and we are putting our network together to help our portfolio company. We have invested into 15 blockchain companies so far, very different use cases. From business automation to gaming to mining and sustainability. So I think the blockchain is still a technology in search of use case. I think we have seen a lot of improvement since the last wave and the last crypto winter. But I think what's happening in the market is that the speculative aspect is being drawn out of the market, and now we're building the company of the future. I mean, I think investors are now looking at companies that are bringing value, business value. They are much more selective, obviously. And that's very much, if there is, for example, NFTs, they need to have a utility. They need to have sometimes a contact between the digital world and the physical world in that space that is called phygital. We see that quite a lot, where you get an NFTs in the virtual world, but that gives you access to physical goods, and these goods are actually tagged with an RFID or something that gives you a certificate of authenticity to avoid counterfeit, for example. So really, investors are now looking at business value for the next few years, I think. Yeah, perhaps I leave a bit of talk to my other partners. So yeah.
Indeed, Valerie, thank you so much. I think that you mentioned something very valid in the current environment, that VCs shall be more selective. So just to extend on that topic, maybe a question to all of the panelists. What are you looking right now in a Web3 venture? Maybe in terms even of sector, team, and any specifics that you have. Maybe we can start with Alex here.
Yeah, actually, it's a great question. Because here I am on behalf of our venture fund, Cryptomeria Capital. We are global VC fund, invest really a lot in different blockchain crypto projects. And to be honest, we have this question in our daily routine, because this is the topic we always discuss, which trend we'll see, and what kind of sectors or subsectors and Web3 we should invest to improve, to make our portfolio stronger, and to put significant impact in the industry. I do believe the easy answer is nobody knows. Because if someone knows which significant trend we'll see in a really close future, in this case, we would have these products, these projects already right now. At the same time, I would like to really quickly highlight some things I think will be really interesting, and probably these sectors, these projects will really rock Web3 industry. The first one is digital identity.
Yeah.
The second one about DAOs, because in my personal opinion, we'll see significant rise in DAOs infrastructure, in DAOs implementals, and NFTs, but not in terms of CryptoPunks or Bored Apes, but mostly in terms of how to make different IP really liquid.
Indeed, a very good point. Actually, I want to ask Himanshu. I've been following closely Woodstock. I know that you're very actively investing. So maybe did anything change since the market downturn? Do you look for different things right now in Web3 companies, or do you have any specific segment that you're focusing on?
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Himanshu. I'm the general partner and CIO at Woodstock. We are a venture capital firm focused only on the Web3 space. We have been actively investing for the last 3.5 years. We have close to 60 plus investments in our portfolio right now. So I have a slightly different view when it comes to what trends we will see going forward. I think a lot of the innovation and the use cases that were there to be explored have been explored in the space. Now we are going to start seeing a lot of consolidation and the actual utility coming out of these use cases and the noise and the froth getting removed, right? So in terms of whether you look at your financialization as a use case, whether you look at your metaverse or gaming as use cases, these are going to be massive categories in themselves. But unfortunately, what we have seen till now is only the noise part of it, right? Even in the NFTs, the only thing that the market has seen till now is the cultural NFTs, where you had your artists and your celebrities just going after the drops side of things and not actually focusing on utility NFTs, which is going to be massive in the coming years. So instead of focusing on what the next trend is going to be, we are actually trying to focus a lot more on what is the best utility to come out of these categories going forward. And we are very keenly looking at the infrastructure layer to start consolidating, whether it's your underlying settlement layers or your middleware layers. We are looking at the gaming as a category to really, now have a big impact in terms of the adoption as well, because we saw early signs of what the network effects and tokens can do across some of these applications and categories, but we have not seen the really successful AAA games come out and actually tapping into these kind of network effects, which I think is starting to happen now, because we are seeing a lot of high quality builders coming from Web 2 side of things who have experience of building really high quality games. And it actually takes 3 to 5 years to build any AAA quality game, right? It doesn't get built in 6 to 12 months. So our focus is a lot more on, okay, who is going to actually start delivering on the real utility within these categories rather than exploring new trends or use cases around them.
I agree with Himanshu, and I really love seeing this shift to infrastructure from most of the VCs, because what we noticed in the current environment is that actually some pieces of that ecosystem of this infrastructure is missing, and that's why you cannot build actually layer 2 and layer 3 when the first one is not there. So that's really great. And maybe let's move to Mru. What would you say are your flagship investments, like anything that you would like to highlight from My Tokenized Capital?
Okay, first of all, let's be the controversial one and put some fun into this this panel in terms of, everyone talks about tech, Web 2, Web 3, NFT, DeFi, blah, 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 and this is what we invest. We're looking at disruption here. I look at, and we're about to do our first tranche levels of 60 million. Can't talk about the next 2 tranches. It's in the XXX millions until the press comes out. So what do we invest in and why? So I look at it from a very simple way. How am I going to make a difference to 1 billion people's lives? I don't care about the business model. I don't care about whether it's Web 2, Web 3, NFT, Wi-Fi, DeFi. I don't care, all right? I care about how do you make their life so simple that they can carry on with their day-to-day life by having some form of impact where they can make money rather than how I can make money. All right? So having been through the .com early days and started that whole .com open source Java movement as a pioneer visionary with Sun Microsystems pre-Netscape days, we look at those fundamentals. How do I have that big social impact? And the second thing I look at is it going to impact the environment? So the three biggest resources, food, energy, and water, has it got an impact on that? I'm interested. Once you got that attention, then I will look at the tech. So I don't care what tech is deployed for addressing that problem with the solution you have. So yes, some of it will be in a metaverse world, some of it will be wealth management, wealth creation, some of it would be in the banking space rather than banks. I don't like banks, by the way, sorry bankers. And some of it will be just social impact based on disrupting the YouTubes, the Facebook, TikToks of the world by giving 80% out back to the community. That's what we are doing now.
That's amazing. Actually, something that you said really relates to the next topic I wanted to open, since all of you mentioned NFTs. And I think that NFTs became popular with like the Bored Ape and everything bad that they can possibly become popular about. But yeah, what you mentioned is like giving back to the community, like having actual utility, having an actual project. And we're very proud, actually, in Swissborg Ventures, we are one of the investors in LimeWire, which I think is one of the most creative NFT platforms out there. So maybe a question to Valerie. What do you think about the NFTs, and when we can expect those NFTs with utility to dominate the market, or how you see this whole NFT market developing in the next few years?
Well, I don't think they will. I think they are one piece of the puzzle. I mean, there are others, the token, there are other ways for companies to raise money and to have digital assets. So I think they are only one piece of the puzzle. But to bounce back about what was said earlier in terms of making an impact, and if we talk about mass adoption, the tech need to be completely invisible for the users. Correct. And that's one of the criteria we're looking at. It's companies that are making the tech and the opening a wallet, having a secret phrases and all that very easy and easy to use, so that these billion people can actually enjoy the tech, enjoy the benefit of the virtual world and the digital asset, and very much participate to this digital economy.
Indeed, very nice. So maybe now, if we need to pick up maybe 3 sectors, which will be the next big thing in the next 5 years, what that would be? Maybe shall we start with Alex?
So yeah, to be honest, I do believe I have just highlighted some sectors. Me personally and our fund we believe in. The first one is DAO. The second one is digital identity, and the third one about NFTs in terms of making any IP liquid. But I would like to probably highlight some points you have discussed about NFTs, because as we highlight, this sector is a promising one. In my personal opinion, the next billion user in Web3 industry will see from gaming, because this is one of the way how we can easily, well, not so easy right now, but probably in the future, onboard in this sector. And what's really important, there are some user patterns which already exist in this sector. Because we have different items, we have different skins and so on. And what Web3 can do, and in a way Web3 can really disrupt it, is how to make it liquid and allow different users, different gamers to own the items, the skins in different games in a secured and the most transparent way. So we just can bring the patterns and let's say connect it with benefits we can get from Web3. And if we come back to the question you asked me, so one of the sector and subsector we believe in and we invest in, it's in the age between Web3 user patterns, Web2 user patterns and advantages which these users can get from Web3 industry.
Got it. But maybe if we need to summarize three in the beginning, you said DAO, digital identities, and NFTs, right?
Right, right.
Let's move to next. Valerie, what is your suggestion?
Well, I think one of the sectors that is going to really expand is sustainability. I mean, everything that is linked to carbon trading, traceability of where the goods or the carbon credits go, and so I think that's going to be a big boost in that sectors. I think every sector is going to harness the power of the metaverse and the 3D visualization. I think every sectors will be disrupted in one way or the other. I'm thinking of another one, for example, healthcare, telemedicine, and other business cases that are already happening in terms of incentivizing the people to move more, to do exercise, and all that by token or NFTs and so on. So I think every sectors will be impacted at some level, because there is a strong convergence of technology between AI, virtual reality, blockchain, augmented reality, so that's going to have a massive impact on every sectors.
Interesting. I think Muro already mentioned it, that for you,
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if
did,
Web2 or
but
Web3 as long as it has the social
yeah. So
element.
let me do my three. But first of all, I disagree. It's good to disagree with what Alex is saying here, that gaming will be in the next 5 years touching 1 billion people and be a game changer. Personally, I think in this current climate, Web3, NFT, gaming, will it touch 1 billion people? Yeah, it might touch people in a certain way, but will it be mass adoption? I don't think so. Having been a visionary from the .com days and blockchain days in 8-9 years ago, to adopt 1 billion real active users in this side of 5 years, I cannot see that happening personally, purely because most of those guys are in India, China, Africa. Smartphones, because unless it's not on this, rather than sitting in front of a screen with Oculuses and all that, ain't gonna happen, in my view, all right? So the three things I think are things that matters to everybody, which is what I've said before: food, energy, and the whole point about money. How are people gonna make money, right? That's first. Second, I think we will see various use cases on making people's lives easier, rather than thinking, and I think Val mentioned it, without thinking what's on the background. When we started the .com, we didn't think what the DNS servers and IP addresses and how do you do it. Plug and play happened later, right? So it will be whoever makes things the simplest, irrespective of what technology is behind it, so that UI, UX experience, that will be the next trend, all right? Yep. And the third one would be the whole thing with social impact. Anything in any way, be it a farmer or someone who's creating fuel for someone or doing agriculture in different ways, and then applying tech to it rather than saying, I've got this super tech, how do I put an IoT device in a farm, for example, to track the organic values of a particular crop or wine on the shelf? No, forget it. Don't worry about the tech. Worry about how you're going to impact people's life, how it will change it. Everything in the background should be whatever it takes.
Indeed. Well, I think that in terms of social impact and sustainability had been a huge theme for many conferences in the past 3 years. And I really think that sustainability is something that people usually relate to, green energy, like farms, as you said. But actually, I think it's a very interesting concept of bringing sustainability to the blockchain. And actually, this is doable.
But it's happening.
It's happening. And they started with a lot of things like carbon credits, which from time to time are questionable. But
very questionable.
For me, this is something I don't see as a big trend in terms of Web3, but something I see that is needed to be implemented. It's a must.
Yeah, so Web3, I knew you'd say that. Web3, in my view, we shouldn't all out say, let's do a Web3 application to make people's wallet or addresses easier. We should say, how do I make this guy's thing usable? It could be a simple mobile phone with a payment system, could make a certain app rather than having to say, I'll do it on Web3.
Well, indeed, but Web3 is all about simplicity,
Sorry?
decentralization, and higher security, but that will be my next question.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's just finish the round and go back to Himanshu. I know that you already mentioned a few sectors that you're currently focusing on, but maybe just if you need to pick up 3 big things, if you need to pick up a portfolio today and you can invest only in 3 sectors for the next 5 years, what those would be?
Oh, interesting question. So I would go probably the biggest on the middleware infrastructure layer, and that is your data analytics, data indexing, your storage, hosting, all the middleware layer solutions, which are basically going to be plugged into all your underlying settlement layers. I think there's a lot of scope of growth when it comes to the middleware layer growing and capturing value. On the second, I would probably pick the derivatives side of things. I think that market is still quite underdeveloped, especially when we compare the derivatives markets in your traditional stock market side of things. There's a lot of scope of growth when it comes to options, protocols, perpetual protocols, and just having a very robust derivative markets across the space, which I think eventually is overall healthy because that brings a certain balance to the markets and hopefully will help in reducing the crazy volatility that exists in the space. And the third one would probably be, so I'm trying to avoid the relatively niche ones. We are quite bullish on gaming, NFTs, metaverse, but those have been covered, so I won't repeat that. So the third one would be real world tokenization. I think there's a lot of scope on that side as well. How do we tokenize real world assets, starting from your most common ones like real estate to even your invoices and going all the way across the board, right? How do we create more liquidity for those assets, bring them on blockchain, make them more tradable across the board. So I think these 3 areas are fairly interesting.
Indeed,
Absolutely.
very interesting. I see still a lot of, I feel that there was a bit of slowdown in gaming when the price crashed, like those tokens were more vulnerable. And many funds that already deployed a lot of capital, they suffered quite a bit, so they slowed down with their investment. But then on the contrary, I'm still seeing a lot of even new emerging VCs that are raising huge amounts to invest in gaming only. So yeah, this I feel is a really good sign for the gaming sector. I wanted to pick up a bit of an interesting topic in our, there are a lot of discussions about centralization and decentralization. And I feel that blockchain is all about decentralization, right? And we're all here to advocate for that. But what we have been seeing lately is that the DeFi protocols, the DeFi things are more vulnerable simply because they are irreversible, right? There was a lot of hacking going on in DeFi pools, protocols, as well as bridges. I'm not even opening the topic about bridges. So what do you think, as an investor also, I think that everybody was all about DeFi, and now more and more investors are starting to focus on centralized protocols and applications because it's just easier to manage and it's more secure. It's not supposed to be, but what we're experiencing today is that they're more secured. So many people prefer to hold a wallet, many individuals prefer to hold a wallet, let's say in Binance instead of MetaMask or like any decentralized wallet. So what is your view on that, both as investors and as users? I'm going to leave that open for whoever wants to pick up first.
I'll do it. So first of all, again, contradiction there. I don't think even decentralized systems are really truly decentralized, all right? And it's a horses for courses. In a decentralized wallet, exchange, whatever, who do you really go and say, you know what, my money got scammed out of this? Because a hacker will go whether it's centralized or decentralized, all right? So all that is just myths, and us in the blockchain community are ambassadoring, I think, the wrong things. So centralized or decentralized, for me, it's horses for courses. Would you give your private keys in a decentralized manner? No. Would you have custodian of your wallets with private keys in your own possession? Yes. Would you put it in some place on an exchange where you are trading, where you can go and tell Binance, hey, hang on, you got hacked, you better pay me back? Or would you go into a decentralized place and, hey, you got hacked, and you'll never get a reply from anyone because it's so-called decentralized? So that whole centralized, decentralized argument, in my view, is just for the sake of blockchain community, but it should be a horses for courses thing. That's my view.
Well, that's a very pessimistic view for a blockchain conference.
Exactly.
Let's move to the next one, please.
You can't all be yay man.
So I actually partially agree to it. One is not everything needs to be decentralized, and I think decentralization is way too overrated when we talk about it in the blockchain, Web3 world. For whatever needs to be decentralized, there's a path to decentralization, right? You cannot expect the protocols or products to be decentralized from day one or at year one or year two. You are never going to be build successful, scalable products if you have that approach. You need to have people who are setting the vision for that product, building it out, iterating step by step, and eventually over a 5, 10, 15-year period, getting to a point to decentralize that and hand that over, the governance of certain parameters of the governance to the community and the stakeholders. But it is a long journey. I think we often misunderstand, what it takes to actually build a truly decentralized product. And not everything, honestly, needs to be decentralized. Some parts should be centralized, some parts should be ensured, some parts should have custody solutions, so that otherwise you're not going to bring your average users into it, right? They'll always be way too scared to take exposure into something where they can lose their life savings, and there's no counterparty to even discuss that with, right? That's not how the world works right now, and we can't expect it to change. Just because some people are promoting the ethos of decentralization. So I think it's a step-by-step process, and we should be careful on what needs to be decentralized and what should be the path for that decentralization.
Yeah, horses for courses. I mean, decentralized existed when we started .com, all right? At Sun, we had data centers around the world. Was there encryption going on between the two data centers to keep them mirrored and the data succinct and all that? If one goes down, the other one takes over. Decentralization, encryption, all this happened. Centralized in some things, decentralized in something. So it will happen, it should carry on happening rather than saying DEX is the way or sex is not the way or whatever, right?
Indeed, yeah. Well, probably I'm very biased, but I'm a huge fan of Swissborg, despite I work for them. But I feel that that's the perfect structure that you can possibly have. There is the centralized element where you have the security, where you have the support, you have somebody actually to call if something goes wrong, and then everything under that is completely decentralized, like the pools, everything is transparent on the blockchain, so I really love that approach. And that's something that we also try to look for in startups that we invest in. Great, so another interesting subject and a bit controversial, but I still want to ask, and I would leave that open for whoever wants to pick it up. Lately, the statistics about the daily active users of metaverses, about Sandbox and Decentralized were published. And they were low, like they were under 100. I believe it was for Decentraland or Sandbox, I'm not really sure. So anyhow, like let's see the bigger picture. And what do you think about metaverse? Like how do you see it as a trend? And what do you expect to happen? Just to put a small comment from me here. I feel that you need the user base, that's my own opinion, that you need the user base. And an established company, let's say like Meta, that already has the users, has the higher capacity to bring them on. I think that a lot of people are doing a lot of creative things in the metaverse right now, but unfortunately they don't have the voice. Like people just don't know about it. Like the average user doesn't even know how to approach it, like how to register, etc. Anyhow, so let's hear from you. I think you had an opinion on the metaverse.
Yeah, I can take this question because True Global Venture is an early investors into Sandbox and Animoca brand. I think there is a misunderstanding because the number of users that were referred in this article are actually the users that are interacting with the chain. So that means having some transaction in their wallet. It doesn't mean that they are users on the platform. It can be the gamers can go on the platform, do some quests and so on, but not do any transaction with the wallet, and he will not be picked up by this number. So I think there is a bit of a distortion. The other thing as well is it comes back to a mass adoption. We are not at the mass adoption stage. We are pioneer, we are early adopters, and the mass adoption is not there. So in the Sandbox, for example, we have big brands that are trying out some experience, trying out to engage their users, their customer in the metaverse. So everybody is trying to find their space in the metaverse. I mean, we have, Sandbox has signed with a very large number of big brands. to explore what can be done and what is the value for a company to be there. Is it brand awareness? Is it customer loyalty? Is it operational efficiency? I mean, there are a lot of cases that bring business value in the metaverse, but at the moment, we are still exploring, I think. And that's hence these kind of numbers.
Absolutely, it's all about mass adoption. Well, great. I'm sure that all of you want to answer that question. However, I see that we have just 10 minutes left, and I see a big crowd here, so I'm quite sure that there'll be very interesting questions for all of you. So is there anybody in the audience that wants to ask a question? We have one here. Can we bring him a mic? And one here.
There is one here.
Tu किधर से?
Thank you very much. This is a very constructive session. I can see, to summarize this session by some, to say I'm not optimistic, but about the future of the technology, but I'm satisfied in certain items, especially something still we are working on it, such as metaverse, Web3, and etc. I would like to know from Paula as well, out of your experience and knowledge and from the investment perspective, where you can see the investors are more pushing, or they have more appetite to invest in technology now, or to use the technology in their business?
Definitely. Who wants to take this? Alex, haven't been answering for a while. Do you want to take that, Alex?
I can follow up your answers, but if you want to start me. So, first of all, I do believe definitely we can highlight the whole metaverse in the future. It's my personal opinion. The second point is if we take sandboxes, the Decentralands, Horizon Worlds, whatever, we cannot call them metaverses. They are just virtual worlds. And this virtual world is a part of the whole metaverse, let's say like worlds or planets in our universe in a macrocosmos level. If we come back to your exact question, I do believe in terms of developing the whole industry, the key driver is user experience. If we want to have and see a real virtual world metaverse winner, this virtual world should provide a really interesting user experience. Right now, in my personal opinion, a lack of this user experience. And as soon as these virtual worlds and creators of this user experience, they will understand what should they deliver to the users to increase the engagement, to engage the loyalty to the virtual worlds. We'll see what kind of devices, what kind of ways how we deliver this user experience we should use. Of course, we can highlight a number of hardwares for now. And in the level where we are this day, probably it's enough, probably not. But it's enough, if we agree it's enough, just for current user experience. If we want to improve this user experience, we need another hardware, we need another way how we can deliver this user experience. And in my opinion, from this point, it will be a key driver of development, the way of delivering this user experience. In terms of devices, in terms of graphics, in terms of user interfaces, in terms of user engagement and user retentions.
Perfect, thank you. I think we're going to have time for one or two more questions. I see one question there, so can we get a mic?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for this panel. Actually, I have a question to Muru Patel. And the question is regarding what Alex said about next billion users will be in the games, right? And
Sorry,
actually,
can you repeat that?
Huh?
Can you just repeat that?
What exactly? Next billion users will be in games. And the arguments are pretty easy, like easy to onboard in Web3 games, easy to engage users in games, and easy to monetize and tokenize games, right? You answered that question. You are opposite of this vision. Could you also show 5 or 3 facts or whatever points
Points on?
why you are against?
Against gaming.
Okay, so first of all, let me just answer, because I think the gentleman there asked for what do investors look for, which I don't think he's nodding frantically there. What do we look for? Is it for our own use or do something to the community, was your question. So I don't think that was addressed. Let me give you that. So we are building a huge ecosystem to impact the world, and if it happens to have those technologies, we'll invest in that. All right? So it's not for our own use, but it is to do an impact there. Now, coming to you with the gaming side, yes, there will be an element of gaming. Hell, I was involved in the vision of even SimCity in the early 2000, late 1990s, right? So an element of gaming will be there. But even in those days, we says, when SimCity was started, oh, in 5 years, you will all be buying real estate and playing this live Monopoly game, and gaming will take over the world, blah, blah, blah. All right? Did it happen? No, it didn't. Why? Because coming back to the gaming, if you're going to look at it from gaming or DeFi, CeFi, SEX, DEX, all these things that you hear in the world, you will not resolve the world's problem. You have to look at what is the world's problem. If someone is bored and wants to have entertainment, yes, gaming is one way you can do that. And yes, there are ways of earning money on it, and people make a lot of money on it. But that is not going to make an impact to 1 billion plus people's lives, where you have volume or a huge social impact on doing something. So horses for courses. Yes, we have a banking app, we have an ecosystem, we have an exchange, and you include some gaming things inside it without having to wear Oculuses or whatever, there is an impact. But it's not the core solution to the problem.
Bro, so
Does that answer your question, roughly? Or not? Or hit me? Whatever
I think
you
we
want.
can argue forever, but thank
Sorry?
you. We can argue forever, but thank you.
No.
I think that we're out of time, so sorry. I think it was a very interesting question. Thank you for asking
Yeah.
it. So we have less than a minute per panelist, so I just wanted for you to have a time for closing remarks. So please, maybe let's start from here with Alex, and then we continue like that.
My closing remark will be quite simple. I think we're just in a starting date, in a starting point of this industry. Right now we see a lot of projects, projects, but still we're just in the beginning of the huge age.
Valerie?
Yes, I do agree. I talked before about the convergence of various technologies, so it's here, it's happening. I think the blockchain is a technology here to stay. I think we're going to go through a few more ups and downs.
So my is get real, look at what the real problems are, and if technology has a play in it, irrespective of what it is, use it. Sometimes technology is not all the answers, gaming is not the answer, metaverse is not the answer, blockchain isn't the answer. So look at the problem, address those solutions, and that's why I thought I'd play Mr. Contradictory today.
And on to Himanshu.
So I would just say this is the time to pay very serious attention to the space. I think a lot of the building blocks and the foundation has been laid, and we will see a lot of action over the next 5-7 years. The clear benchmark is to see where the talent is flowing, and the world's best talent is building into the Web3 space right now. So it's definitely the right time to pay attention to it. There's a lot of areas you can pay attention to. It's up to one to explore that journey. But I do hope that everyone takes the space seriously and doesn't get discouraged by the market and the whole macro environment right now.
I cannot agree more. Well, thank you so much for listening in, and again, thanks to TrustCon for organizing that. Thank you, panelists.
Can you allow me one question for Meru, please? Meru, actually, exactly what you mentioned, there is some contradictions of information, especially from the technology perspective. People, they are expecting a lot of things. When you come to implementation, you can see something different. This is a big fight between the board where they have to pay the money and the operation as well. So we need to be more specific in technology, what exactly the solution is. Before to go to solution, we have to understand where our problem before to start talk about solution.
No, I absolutely agree. And to point it out again, hang on, I've come from a computing degree. I've done Sun, Siemens, IBM, Oracle, blah, 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 at the innovation level. So I'm big tech. But if you put your realistic hat on and say, this is a problem, this could be the solution. And if technology plays a part, bring the best tech, UI, UX experience to make it so simple that it's like a light switch on, switch off. You don't know where the power's coming on. You just connect with the password on Wi-Fi. You don't know all the host of services, DNS servers, hosting servers, blah, 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 proxy servers. You don't want to care. You don't want to know. That's how we started it. So I looked at it from there. And same with the Java, how we started that. So technology is not always the answer. If it happens to play a part, use it sensibly.
Thank you.
Thank you.